Peace and gratitude. This is Kamara Falade Banderanwa, and this is part 2 of the evidence. Are you titled or entitled? Today is Sunday, July 27, 2025. All right. All right, so let's begin here. This is when the summer, or actually April of 2023, was when the Neighborhood Block Club president was throwing glass at my house, yelling at me, verbally harassing me. And it wouldn't be considered vandalism because she didn't cause any damage. So I want to make that clear. It wasn't vandalism because she didn't cause any damage, monetary damage to my home. So legally it wouldn't be considered vandalism. Also, in the video previous to this, I described my nephew and his friend on the left side. They weren't on the left side, they were on the right side. They were on the right side of my backyard, clearing that fence line. So I wanted to correct that. So here we are. So the harassment began in April of 2023. I'm not going to even give you all of the audio and the video footage of the harassment. I'm just going to highlight just a few of the incidences, but I will read to you because I took notes. I kept a journal. I took notes, and then I will also read to you what I put in the PPO that I had granted against her. All right. So on this incident now, I have 2 cameras on the side of my house. One camera, it records in real time. The other camera is a Ring camera, and all of you who have Ring cameras, you already know that you can set the settings to to record motion for a longer period of time. However, it is not recording in real time. So if a person or an object or an animal or a car, if it moves too quickly, the camera won't record it. It won't pick up on the movement. So this footage right here is from the camera that records in real time. And I can't show you because I didn't record that footage from the Ring camera, but I checked because I did not want to accuse anybody of anything that they did not do. So before I started documenting, I wanted to make sure I checked every angle on the Ring camera. I checked to see if somebody was in the backyard. I checked to see if somebody walked on the side of the fence. I checked to see if somebody walked down the street. None of that. I scanned. I looked on the Ring camera, and I checked to see if anybody was on the lot. Because as you can see, it's a lot that separates me and her. So I looked everywhere to see if somebody, like I said, walked up the street and threw something in the driveway, threw something from across the street. They were in the back of the lot. If they were in my backyard, nothing. Like, I did my due diligence before I began documenting and realizing that it was her. I did my due diligence because I did not want to falsely accuse someone of something that they were not doing or they did not do. Also, I will be very honest with you. It was me not trusting my intuition. My intuition, the Holy Spirit was telling me it was her. But I dismissed it. because still living in a world, a 3D world where you got to have proof, you got to have evidence. But the Holy Spirit was telling me it was her. So when you see these clips, the video footage, I had already done my due diligence. And this is the video footage of the camera that captures in real time, because my Ring camera did not capture it, because she threw the glass so fast that the Ring camera did not have enough time to pick up the motion. Because the Ring camera, the way it is positioned, the side door of her home is in the field of motion of the Ring camera. But because it was done so quickly, the Ring camera didn't pick it up. But the other camera did pick it up, because that camera records in real time. So this is the video footage from the camera that records in real time. So I'm going to play it. And this occurred on May 29, 2023. And I actually was up at the time. I think it was like between 9 and 10 a.m. And I remember, because it was Memorial Day. Monday, it was Memorial Day. And I remember the night before, my uncle had a barbecue at his house, a get together at his house for the holiday. And I went to that. And it was Monday morning. And I was up and I was on the phone. And I heard something. I heard like a boom on the side of my house, and I was like, what was that? And then that's when I went back and looked at the camera and saw that it was a glass bottle in the driveway. And I'm like, how long that's been there? And is that what I heard? And then that's when I went back and started going through the video footage and realized that she threw it on my property. So let's take a look. And I'm going to play it at least 3 times. Okay, you all saw that, right? All right, let's play it again. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to have to play it all the way through. I have to play it all the way to the end. All right, I'm going to play it again, so you can see the direction of where the glass bottle is being thrown from. And as you can see, there's nobody walking down the street. As you can see, nobody walked up into the lot. As you can see, you saw it? You saw it? As you can see, nobody is running from the lot. Okay, let's play it one more time. Let's see if it's ran out, if the video. Okay, we're going to play it one more time. Oh, it's still playing. We're going to play it one more time. Remember, this video footage is from the camera that records in real time. So if it was a person that did that, there's no escaping. Like, it was, I would have been able to see them if they jumped over the fence. I would have been able to see them, and I would have showed you that footage of them jumping over my fence in the backyard and running away. It was none of that, because I checked for all of that. It was none of that. And clearly they didn't run out into the street or down the driveway, because you would have seen it in this footage. So one more time. So there you go. I've shown you the video 3 times. 3 times I've shown you the video. As you can see in the corner, the way I'm looking at the screen in the left hand corner, that is like a section of her house. That's her house. And then obviously this is my house where the glass is being thrown at. So that was on May 29, 2023. Before that, there was eggs. I would come outside, because my side door, when I come out the side doors into the driveway, there was eggs thrown up against my house, a jar of relish thrown up against my house. One day, I was out and I was talking to a neighbor, and he was like, I asked him, could he take my trash can back to the side of the house because it was trash day. It was on a Friday. And as he was doing it, he was like, he said, do you know you have a jar? It's apples all in your driveway, and it's a glass jar all, in your driveway. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, it's a jar in your driveway and it's apples all in your driveway. And I said, oh, okay. So he picked up the jar for me, and I was like, well, I'll clean it up when I get back. So before this date, this is what she was throwing on the side of my house, okay? So let's go to the next slide. It's going to play the video again before it allows me to go to the next slide. So this was, like I said, May 29, 2023. Okay, this one may be harder to see because when I went to try to save the footage on a flash drive, it didn't work. So I had to record it on my phone from my iPad. So this happened on a Sunday. I remember because it was in September of 2023. First of all, let me give you the dates. So what you just watched when she threw the glass up against my house. No, did I do a police report for that one? No, I didn't do a police report for that one because, like I said, I didn't have like evidence. Like I just felt I was doubting myself at the time, so I didn't do a police report for the video footage that you just saw. So this one happened on September 24th, 2023. I had come home and I had spent the day at the park with my cousins. Our cousins got together and we did end of the summer get together at the park, like slash barbecue. And when I came home, it was glass in the driveway. And I did do a police report for this one. It's gonna be challenging to see because, like I said, when I went to try to save it on my other camera, it wouldn't save to a hard drive, to a flash drive rather. So I had to record it on my phone from the iPad. So here we go. You might have to zoom in on your phone if you're watching this on your phone, but here we go. Okay, you can see it. If you pay attention, it's a pipe sticking out of the concrete in my driveway. So if your eyes go to that direction, you'll see the glass hitting up against the pipe. Notice, coming from the same direction, this was recorded on my this is footage that was recorded on the camera that records in real time. You see the same angle, it ain't changed. I have not changed the position of the camera since that first incident that I showed you in May. I haven't changed the position of the camera. So you see that everything is the same. Everything is in the same position. You notice that the glass is coming from the same direction. The bottles being thrown is coming from the same direction. The first one, she threw it more towards my side door where the trash can is. This one, she threw it more towards the front of the towards the front of the parking lot of my parking lot, towards the front of the driveway, like where my porch is, because where that pipe is sticking up at in the concrete in my driveway, that's where my porch is. So this time she threw the glass more so toward like the front of the driveway where my porch is. So we'll watch it again. Okay, we're gonna watch it one more time. Okay, so you can see it being thrown. So by this time, I started to respond differently. I started to keep evidence. So I swept that up, and you'll see it. I started to keep evidence because I'm like, okay, it has her DNA on it, her fingerprints on it. And depending if she drunk from the bottle, or she poured it in a glass, it has her DNA on it. So I decided to keep evidence. So this particular one, I went to the police station for, and the report number is 23-092-40329, and I talked to Officer H. I actually went into the second precinct. Like, I actually drove to the second precinct, took the video with me, and I showed the officer, and he took my statement at the desk because they didn't show up. I called the police, I think twice, and they didn't show up to my house at all. So I guess, it was busy that day. I don't know, but I called them twice and they didn't show up. So I ended up just going to the actual precinct and making a report. So that was the report number for that. Now the next slide, this is what she threw. Neighborhood Block Club president. She threw it between 12:50 and 12:51 p.m. on a Sunday. This is what she threw. So that's the evidence of what she threw, and I kept it so the police could dust it for fingerprints. All right. So this is also what she threw at my house. One day she was barbecuing, and it was actually on a Friday because it was trash day. I remember because when I went out to put my trash can in its position on the side of my house, this is what I saw. It was splattered all on the side of my house, and it was in the exact direction of where they were barbecuing at, her and her husband. So I had to clean that. I had to clean the brick of my house of hot sauce and whatever kind of sauce was in the bottles. This is what she threw. Now, this is when I started to think more strategically, and I swept it up, put it in the bag, and I took it to the second precinct for evidence for them to wipe her fingerprints from. Because when she threw the first bottle, I was still doubting. I wasn't trusting my intuition. I wasn't listening to the Holy Spirit. And what I did was I just threw it in the trash can. But I started to think clearly. And so every time it was bottles on the side of the house, I would just sweep them up, put them in a bag, and I would mark it. I would label it, the time and date in which it was on the side of my house. And I actually took this to the second precinct and I gave it as evidence because I had to talk to Detective DB, and I had to go and give a statement. And this is what the picture you see here is one of, I took in two pieces of evidence, and this was one of the pieces of evidence that I took in, along with all the video footage that I'm showing you and the pictures that I'm showing you. Okay, now clearly, because the reason it hasn't escalated to the Wayne County prosecutors, well, I don't know why it hasn't escalated to the Wayne County prosecutor's office, because the next video is going to show her clearly throwing things at me. So I don't know why it hasn't escalated, because I got a clear view of her throwing things at me that I'll show in another video. So let me read to you. So when she says, remember in the other video, the video about addressing her evidence, and she said in the PPO that she attempted to get granted against me. And remember I read to you, she said the police have been called 3 to 4 times to my home in 2023. Well, that's why they was called to her home in 2023. And she went on to say, I have spoke with the cops on several occasions to see what is the problem and what is going on. They say they will send community relations out and never did. You knew what was going on because you were causing it. She knew what was going on. So when she put that in the PPO, it's like you were lying. You were telling a lie. You knew what was going on. You knew why the police were coming out, because when the police did come out, you never opened the door. When the police did come out to try to serve you the PPO I was granted in 2023, your husband said you weren't there. But that was the day that you were yelling and screaming at me. But all of a sudden, you weren't there. So you knew why the police were coming out. And the police told your husband that we have a PPO, we need to serve it to her, and he told them that you weren't there, because they came back and told me what was said, and that they couldn't serve the PPO because he said that you weren't there. But just 5 minutes ago, you were yelling at me saying you were going to beat my ass and all this other stuff. So that's why the police were coming to your house 3 to 4 times in 2023, but you tried to act like you didn't know what was going on. All right, when I went to court, and I'll end it here. When I went to court, this is the statement that I read. This is the statement that I wrote up. I didn't read all of it because, I just wanted to get straight to the point. So I didn't read I did read the introduction, and then I went just straight to the evidence. So I'm going to read to you in its entirety what I wrote as I prepared my statement for the court when I went to her expungement hearing. Now, this is the part that I did read to the court. I said, "Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Dr. Deandra Adrian Averhart. The relationship I have with the defendant, I will not say her name or her address, is that I am her neighbor who lives at." I started it off with that. So when she said in her PPO against me that Or well, when we actually went, we were actually in court, and she said that I misrepresented myself. No, I did not. I said it clearly our relationship with each other. I made sure to start off with that. Okay, now this part I didn't read. I just went right into the testimony. But this is I'm gonna read everything that I wrote down to say in court at her expungement hearing. So I said, I do not, or I wrote down, I do not stand before the court in this moment to dispute technicalities, motives, or the letter of the law. It is my obligation to surrender that responsibility to the intelligence of your honor and to the ethical, upright, and legal masterminds of the attorneys assigned to this case of blank versus the state of Michigan. I did not read this part because I wanted to be straight to the point. But this is what was written down. I had intentions to read it, but I had to read the room and realize, okay, don't waste the court's time. Just get straight to the point. My assignment, purpose, and intention on this day, Friday, December 8th, 2023, is to present evidence and testimony from a dual lens. One, to present evidence of verbal and physical intimidation, harassment, and threats of violence inflicted by the defendant upon me that resulted in my outward and inner expressions of fear, anxiety, depression, stress, and anger, and caused relational strain and conflict among my family, my friends, and myself due to the distraught and fearful emotional state Due to my distraught and fearful emotional state from April 2023 through December 2023. I have proof that I am participating in mental therapy because of the defendant's behavior toward me under the care of state social worker, and I stated her name. I will provide the court with her contact information and the dates and times of our sessions. I have informed her that she is allowed to share our sessions with the court if necessary. 2, to present evidence based on the public information at my disposal of the defendant's past criminal behavior and her inability to exhibit self-accountability, emotional ownership, and behavioral rehabilitation, and how this past behavior repeated itself in the present. Thank you in advance, Your Honor, in allowing me the grace to provide brief foundational context. Okay, let's begin. Now, all this I didn't read this. Everything I've read so far, I didn't read. On September 4th, 2002, the defendant, I'm not going to read this. I'm not going to read this to you all because this is her criminal record. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to read about her criminal record. I'm not going to do it. So, because I started off giving context about her criminal record. I'm not going to share that with you. I'm not. All right. So, this is what I actually read to the court. I actually read this in court. I actually read this in court. So, let's continue. On May 4th, 2023 at 9 a.m., a tree contractor began cutting down trees from my property, but had a family emergency, so the tree debris had been left by my fence. On May 4th, 2023 at 4:40 p.m., the defendant took pictures of my property and said I wasn't asleep. Let me slow down. If I wasn't asleep, I would have told you, bitch, to clean that shit up. You coming over here dirtying up the neighborhood. On Friday, May 5th, 2023, at 7:07 p.m., the defendant threw a jar of relish at the side of my home. On Friday, May 15th, 2023, at 5 p.m., she threw a jar of sliced spiced apples at the side of my home. Now, mind you, when I saw all of that, I already explained it to y'all. When I saw all of that thrown at my house, I was keeping notes. Like, I was writing down what I saw. Because my spirit was telling me it was her, but I didn't want to believe it. So once I saw on the video camera of her throwing the glass bottle, it was just like, okay, it's been her all along. So that's what this is all about. All right, let me continue. On Monday, May 29, 2023 at 9:36 a.m., the defendant threw a vodka bottle at the side of my home. I showed y'all the video of that. This evidence, the vodka bottle, was given to Detective Bailey at the second precinct to lift fingerprints. So I guess I did. I didn't think I kept the bottle for that one, but I guess I did. On Friday, June 2nd, 2023 at 11:45 p.m., the defendant threw a bottle of Old Bay hot sauce and Ortego taco sauce at the side of my home. On Monday, June 5th, 2023 at 4 p.m., she threw a rock and a glass object at me while I was doing lawn work in my front yard. This evidence, the rock and glass object, was given to Detective Bailey at the second precinct to lift fingerprints. I have audio, video, and pictures of the aforementioned available for the court's review. I also have police report numbers, officers' names, dates, and times of incidents between the defendant and myself available for the court's review. After the incident that took place on Monday, June 5th, 2023, I filed for a PPO against the defendant, and it was granted on June 30th, 2023. Once again, she repeated her avoidant behavior pattern by avoiding being served the PPO by H&R Process Serving Group, LLC. After the PPO was granted on June 30th, 2023, the defendant violated it twice. On September 24th, 2023, between 12:50 p.m. to 12:51 p.m., she threw a wine bottle at the side of my home. I have the broken glass secured in my home to submit for evidence and to lift fingerprints. The second time in which the defendant violated the PPO was Friday, October 6, 2023, at 3:47 p.m. I was taking my trash can back to the side of my home, and she yelled from her side window, "You move when I let you move, bitch." All right, now that's what I shared with the court. Now, clearly, because the PPO had not been officially served, she didn't technically violate it, according in the eyes of the law. Okay. But that's what I read to the court. That's all I read to the court. Now, this is the rest of what I wrote down, but I did not read in court. I refuse to speculate or assume why the defendant exhibited this behavior toward me since between June 2018, the year I purchased my home, through March 2021. I extended but not limited to the following acts of kindness toward the defendant: providing transportation to community events that provided resources for her son before and during COVID, assisting her with adopt a family Christmas applications for her son, assisting with the setup and chaperoning of her son's third birthday party and buying him birthday presents, purchasing a floral arrangement for her mother's funeral, and assisting her and giving her plant bulbs to assist her in her landscaping efforts. In conclusion, in my culture, the elders teach that one does not stand before one of authority with a problem and not present a solution or not present a resolution. Therefore, I'm requesting for the defendant's record to not be expunged, as the evidence and my personal interaction and experience with the defendant clearly demonstrates she has not improved nor changed her behavior and decision processes. Now, I did read that part to the court. I did read that part. What I just read about that paragraph about, the things that I did for her, I did everything that I just read. I read that to the court. Additionally, any other consequences and penalties due her for violating the PPO against her, and the active warrant against her are enforced. Now I didn't read that part, thank God, because that don't make sense. I should have proofread that better. The defendant is being asked to cease and desist as of today, Friday, December 8th, 2023, and for perpetuity All forms of verbal and physical intimidation against me, directly, indirectly, explicitly, or implicitly, imply or express, while I am outside and inside my home, entering and exiting my home, and vehicle entering and exiting my backyard, conducting any type of work, social interaction, home improvement, or landscaping outside my home, or any encounters in public spaces. And this is what I asked the court that I wanted. The defendant submits to the court. So I wanted her to cease and desist all of the behavior that she had exhibited up until this point. The defendant submits to the court and to me a written and signed statement indicating that she understands the restrictions imposed on her by the PPO that was granted against her, including, and I stated state statutes, including MCL 750.411H, MCL 750.411I, and MCL 750.411S, and that violation of these restrictions will result in jail time, a fine, or both. Now, I didn't read this in the courtroom because it would have been redundant because they're lawyers and they're a judge and they know these things. So once again, I extend my gratitude to you, Your Honor, the attorneys, the defendant, and everyone involved and present in these court proceedings. I trust that the decisions and findings issued from the bench are for the highest and greatest good of all parties involved, and it will be used as a learning experience for the defendant. It is my hope the defendant uses this experience to not plant and cultivate a harvest of bitterness, animosity, blame, and resentment, but to teach her about self-accountability and healthy expressions of her emotions, for her to show up as the best version of her, for her to show up as the best version for her son and for herself. Thank you. That part I did read in court. So that was the statement that I had prepared to read at her expungement hearing. And like I said, I told you the parts that I actually read in court. So that is, thank you so much for listening and watching to this video. So that is the things that took place in 2023. And that's not even all of it. That is just what I'm sharing with you all. If I was to share all of it, it would just go on and on and on and on. So the next video I'm going to talk about, the two PPOs that I have against her. My PPOs were granted immediately. I did not have to go to court for my PPOs. As soon as I completed them and I submitted them to the court, they were granted within 24 hours. They were granted ex parte. So I'm going to tell you about the PPO that I was granted in 2023. And now it will make sense to you. Now you see why she did the PPO against me in 2024. Because it was a tit for tat. She mimicked what I did. She mimicked what I did. An attempt to try to get back at me. But the difference is I had too many receipts. I got too much date and time, officers that I talked to. I got too much video footage. I got your fingerprints on objects that you threw at my house. And my stuff doesn't contradict itself. And I'm very descriptive. Like, one thing I have learned in life, when a person is lying, they don't give details. Because when you're lying, you don't give details because you're not going to remember the details. So you give very vague and general explanations, or you give very vague and general details or accounts of an event because you got to remember your lies. A person who's telling the truth is very descriptive, and they will tell the same story over and over again. Doesn't matter how much time lapses in between the events. It will be the same thing. They won't change. It doesn't matter who they talking to, it won't change. When she did her PPO, it was very vague because because you got to remember the lies. And you got to remember the lies. So it's better to stay vague. So it's not much that you have to remember. So thank you so much for listening. The next one I'm just gonna go over the PPOs, but now you see why the PPO that I talked about in my earlier video that she attempted to file against me on February 13th, 2024, why it doesn't hold any weight, why it was a lie from beginning to end. It was just lies all through it. And I'm actually going to, I will read to you because I gave her a week I gave her a week to serve me the PPO, which she never did. And so after that, I went and I filed a counter argument to the PPO. And I'm going to read that to you. It was opened by the court because on my email, I have it where I can tell when people have opened the email and read it. I get like a receipt saying that it's been read. So when I submitted my challenge to her PPO to the court, it was opened by the court, but I never got a response. So the next one, I'm going to read to you how I challenged her PPO. And then I'm going to read you the PPO that I had against her in 2023. So thank you so much. Until next time, stay grateful and stay aware.